I'm Paige Ray. I am a commercial photographer and videographer in Los Angeles. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So today I'm going to teach you how I produce a photo shoot. This is part 2 where I am telling you all about production and the day of the shoot, or the days of the shoot, depending on how big your project is. If you would like to learn about pre-production, I have a video on that too, right here. Click through and definitely leave any questions that you have in the comments. I would love to hear them. All right, we have gone through the planning, the prep, the pre-production, and the coordination, and now it is finally shoot day. Oh my gosh, I love shoot day. We have such a good time on set. That's actually my number one goal is if you leave set saying, oh my God, that was so much fun, then I've done my job, because fun set makes fun photos. I love to have a happy, relaxed, efficient set. And that means not just my clients are happy, but my team is happy. If I have a happy team, I have a team that is excited to be there, that's doing really their best work. So I am not just there to make my clients happy. I am also there to make my team happy. Also, because usually my team members are people I've worked with for years, that I've known a long time. We've done a lot of projects together. And so I always want to take care of them because I always want to keep working with them. So my team already has their call sheet for the day. Every single person on my team knows where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be. They even know parking details for the day. Nothing is a mystery. So I always want to be the first person on set. If I can get there earlier than my client, I will. That often depends on the rules of the studio, but at the very least, I am there when my client gets there, or my client representative gets there. The first thing that I'm doing as a photographer is I am doing my load in. I am taking all of my equipment and I am bringing it into the studio. I'm also checking in on my client. My client is usually starting their glam, or the models are starting their glam. And so I want to check in. I also want to be looking through wardrobe, seeing what wardrobe is going to coordinate with our set as we expect it to, because oftentimes what we'll do is we will think about what wardrobe we want against what backdrop or background. And if we are against multiple backdrops or backgrounds that day, I want to check and make sure the wardrobe is going to look on set the way that we had envisioned it to look. Lighting totally depends on the project and what your final goals are. Do you want a dramatic effect? The bigger the production, the more equipment is. If you have a massive production and you are bringing in a ton of equipment and your setup is going to take hours, then you're doing a pre-lighting day. If I can do it within 1 to 2 hours, I'm just going to do it the day of the shoot. Do you want a dramatic effect? Do you want bright and airy? Do you want something playful and colorful? That's what your lighting is going to depend on. And then my camera setup is going to depend on that too. Am I shooting something that we need a lot of detail in? I'm probably going to use a macro lens, something longer, something that is not just 100 millimeters, but probably 135 is what I prefer. So if I'm shooting jewelry and I want a lot of detail and I really want those stones to pop, I'm going to be using that longer lens to get more detail. If I'm shooting something with models that is apparel, it depends on what our backdrop is, but I'm usually going back and forth between kind of a medium lens, like a 50, and a wide lens. Like on my Canon, I have a Mark IV, I'll use a 28. I love a wide lens. I used to use a 35 all the time, but to be honest, once I started using that 28, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the storytelling that's capable within one frame from a 28. It depends on what I'm shooting, but I'm gonna have every lens that I own on set with me. I'm gonna have a backup camera. I'm gonna have a million bajillion memory cards. I'm gonna have everything that I need and then some, because I always wanna have backup on set. For example, I was shooting a jewelry brand and I had rented a really beautiful macro lens. I think it was a 135 to shoot. And I, halfway through the shoot, dropped my camera on the lens and I broke the lens. Of course, I did not panic outwardly. You can't panic outwardly when you're on set. You just have to take care of it. I switched to my backup lens, which was a 100 millimeter, and it worked beautifully. We were all happy. The photos looked great and everything went fine. But having that backup on backup, you're really going to want it. The other thing that I'm doing on set that I'm testing out and checking and making sure it works is my tether. When I'm shooting, I am also set up with my computer so that as I'm shooting, the things I'm shooting are coming up on my computer, and the client or the client representative can review those photos. They can make their selects on set. If our contract is for 5 shots, 5 deliverables, as I'm shooting, they can go through what I'm shooting and say, from this setup, I want that one. And then we can move on to a new setup and they can say, from this setup, I want that one. We can select it there. And that way, when I go back to my studio to do post-production, which we will talk about in another video, I already know what selects I'm working with instead of having to do a proofing gallery. There are other ways to do this, and I will talk about that in the post-production video. We've got everything set up. Our hair and makeup is done. Everyone's in wardrobe. Set looks great. Lighting looks great. Glam is done. The next thing to do is make the photos. We are shooting. After 10 years, I'm pretty good at estimating how long a shoot is going to take. Rarely am I going over time or under time. I'm usually nailing it pretty well, but if it looks like we are going to need more time, that's a conversation I will have with my client on set. Usually I'll know an hour out, 30 minutes out, if I'm gonna need an extra hour, what we're gonna need. And then that's the conversation I pull my client aside to have. How would we like to handle that? Are we adding another hour on? Am I just gonna be flexible, or will I need to invoice them for the extra time? That's a conversation for me and my client. But at this point, after 10 years, I've done this often enough that I feel pretty clear on how long a shoot is going to need to take. I don't have to have that conversation really anymore, which is great. So shoot day goes to plan. We make beautiful photos. We get the last shot. That's a wrap. By the way, the last shot of the day is called the martini shot. It's because we can all go have a martini, so we all cheer. I love that shot. We wrap the shoot, and then it's time to load out, which means we break down all the equipment. We load out, everybody's done. The studio says, thank you for being done on time. I like to do as much cleanup as possible afterward. I don't ever want to leave a location or a set with scuff marks or broken anything. So I'm doing everything I can to make sure everything is clean and in the same place it was when we got to the studio, because I want the studio to be happy with how we spent our time there so that they welcome us back. I love having a happy working relationship with my vendors and with my studios and my locations and my clients. And I would actually tell you that is one of the ways that I've been in business for 10 years. I'm always going to go above and beyond to make sure the process is clean, reliable, easy, and fun for everybody involved so that they want to come back and work with me again. All right, that was production. I hope you had fun today. I hope you learned something. If you would like to learn more, I'm going to be talking about post-production in my next video. Stay tuned. And while you're here, if you could give me some clicks, some likes, some subscribes, whatever else is down there at the bottom of your screen to help a girl out. I really am hoping to grow on YouTube this year. So please, please, please click away. And if you want to learn how to look amazing on camera, I have a free posing guide that makes posing easy, because once you get the hang of it, it's a breeze. I promise you can look good on camera. You are not awkward. You are not nervous. You are beautiful and perfect.